Hi there, I'm Garrett McCaffrey. Today I'm joined by the head coach of North Carolina State, Braden Holloway, and this is the SwimSwam podcast. Braden, thanks for making time today. I know it's a busy time of year. It's taper time. You've got a lot of needs that have to be met in the water. What's taper time like for you guys going into ACCs in about a week?
Yeah, Garrett, thanks for having me. Always love what you guys do for the sport. It's always fun to listen and learn and share and hear some really cool stuff out there. So I appreciate it. And yeah, I think taper time, a lot of coaches may love it. I don't, because you always feel like, you feel like you're trying to give to each person what they need. And I feel like I'm always not doing that as best as I could. It's always, everyone's different, and so even if you have people doing the same stuff, a lot of times you want to give them something a little bit different just so they know that they're being looked at and being considered at all times. And for us every year, we have so many different people in different places that it makes it pretty challenging. We have some that have not rested very much at all this season, and so this is a big resting period for them. We have some that have already gone to world champs, and we got them ready to go for world champs, and now they're kind of in a different pattern at this point. We've had people that have been sick, like everyone else, just dealing with when everyone has to deal with their own levels of COVID. It seems like it's hit most teams. It hit us too. And so and then you have some that we're trying to give a little bit of a breather to for conference, but maybe, wait a little bit more for NCAAs to kind of give them, fully the full gauntlet. And so I think it's really just juggling a bunch of balls at once.
Your group that you're responsible for as far as training on a daily basis is which group?
I work a lot more with everyone who just likes to do fast. We don't go above 8 laps.
So you're the sprint coach still.
Yeah, I still get to do that, which is fun. It's a big group. It's a very dynamic group. I have some people in that group that excel in 2 laps and 4 laps. I have some that excel in 4 laps and 8 laps. I actually have 1 or 2 that go up to the 500. So I like it because it keeps my brain exploring for those areas. And at the same time, the way our groups are set up, it's more built off what we feel is best for them. So, there's even some sprinters that are not in this group. And so, we cross over a lot to add racing opportunities for our coaches to collaborate a lot, even if it's, we have the way we train is it's evolved, and I like it because it adds every coach gets invested into every swimmer. And I think those are things that are really important for a team. And it's just something that we like to do. I've always liked to do it. And when I first got here 11 years ago, I was able to try a bunch of things that I thought sounded cool, and some things would be great, some things would not, or whatever. But that's usually the group that I work with the most. Yeah.
So many different areas because I've just recently stepped into college coaching, and I'm a sprint coach as well. And I definitely was influenced through my time as more of a traveling journalist, being able to go and see practices and stuff. And I met you, and I think it was either very late 2007 or very early 2008 at Pinecrest when you were the sprint coach for Virginia Tech, and you were doing stuff that I had never even thought to associate with swimming. We had hurdles on the track that were happening. It was a lot of dry land into swimming, and you were just making use of the things around you. And you just basically put it into the exact terms that would describe it, things that sounded cool, and you just tried them. What did you know? And it doesn't have to be like a training philosophy or a physiology thing, but what did you know then that a lot of coaches don't get, and you know now.
I mean, I was lucky. One of my first coaches ever was Sam Freeze, Dr. Freeze. There was one summer I basically lived on his houseboat with his son, Stephen Freeze, who swam at Hawaii at the time. This was back when he went to Fort Lauderdale. But I think, when you think about sprinting and you think, again, I know things continue to evolve, and I think for me, I closely relate them to sprinters in track. I mean, the races don't last long, and they are built for those types of maximum output at short distances. And so, back when I was at Virginia Tech, and we were, and I was younger in my years, where I was still learning a lot, and I just know at that point, especially on that trip where you were there. When we're on a training trip, and if I'm having these sprinters train twice a day and doing all this stuff, they're gonna make it 2 days, and then they're gonna be like, ugh, for like a week and a half. So it's like, I don't want to do that. So for me, it was a way of taxing them that's more relative to exactly how they feel in a race, without overbearing anything to where they completely fall apart. I remember that track set that we did. And we were lucky enough that Pinecrest was really great letting us use equipment and use their facilities, and the track was right next to the pool. And so, some of the kids that we were working with were very athletic, and some I shouldn't have probably done that set with. It might have been an injury waiting to happen. But I think the first and foremost thing, the way I used to think, and I still do now, is if you have a sprinter and they buy into it, even if you could be as unique as you want it to be. And if today it is about fast, it's about I want to hit things that are probably no more than 15 seconds or 20 seconds. And in order to do that at maximum levels, you're having to give them a lot of rest. I think anything along those fast twitch, and you can see it now with younger coaches that are taking stuff that's been done, but even making it better, and I saw somewhere on social media, I don't remember who it was, a young coach is GA at somewhere, and he did something, and I really liked it. And I think it's the concepts that have been done. It's just taking it to the next level. But I think for a sprinter, if they're mentally engaged and they are zoned into this, whatever thing that you're doing, and you're explaining to them, this is why we're doing it, and this is what I want to get out of it. Like, it could be the greatest set in the world, and it could be 4:25s on 2 minutes. You're going to blow 4 bubbles out. You're going to let all your air out. You're going to come up. You're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to go underwater, and you're going to kick for 8 seconds. You're going to come up. I mean, you could make it fun, and I think for sprinters, they want to go fast, and they don't like going slow. So a lot of times, if you train and they're doing some things that they go slow, they don't like it, and I think those just kind of concepts, I think when I was younger, excited me. Because it was your people say thinking out the box, but I think it's more of like, not so much out the box, because I really feel like you got to be able to explain everything, and it needs to make sense. Like, I don't like doing things that, like, if I don't know how we're going to get anything out of it, then why are we doing it? So I don't like doing that. But I think when I was early, that's the opportunity that I was given. Ned Skinner was a great mentor and a great dear friend of mine, and he allowed me to try do things, and I think it was great.
Sometimes the best mentorship is giving you space to kind of do your own thing like that. What metrics do you use then? Because I love, the idea of being able to give everybody, unique stuff, but still there has to be some things that you've seen over time and trends that you've kind of noticed that have you, all right, this is the important stuff, whether that's, yardage at speed, overall yardage, power work. What kind of metrics do you use? Not necessarily so much so that you have to explain everything to the kids, but so that how to, taper down and what things to play with in this time of year when you're trying to, make them prime for performance. What metrics have you developed? And if it's a pattern from back then that, you thought this was something that was really great that wasn't, I'd love to hear about that. But what are your metrics, and kind of how did you get there with them?
I would say the biggest thing for me that's changed over time is the aerobic approach to sprinting. It used to be, I even went through a phase where I did colors. I did a version of the John Urbanchek color system with sprinters, and I remember that period of time we were really good in the 200s, but our top end speed was never quite there. We'd always bring it back great, but we never had quite the top end speed. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing for me is making sure I'm training aerobically this group. Now, some that go up to the 200, we'll get cranking on some threshold work that, maybe the intervals get down a little bit tighter, but most of the aerobic work that I like to do now is on higher intervals. They're based on, stroke count, a lot of breath control, and to where they're aerobically getting pretty high, but we're maintaining stroke efficiency more than anything else. The kids joke with me now that they're like, you like getting our heart rate up during times that we rest just by just taking away oxygen. And that's a lot of what we do right now is a lot of breath control, and a lot of it may be easy, but they're not breathing a whole lot, and they're not getting a whole lot of strokes to take. But, I think, I loosely follow where we are with our kicking. I would probably say that's the one area where I will use metrics as far as the amount of time we're kicking at high levels, the amount of yards that we're kicking. I like doing a lot of fast resisted kicking throughout the season, and I just do it based off total time. So if we're going, we're going to hit 15 minutes of insanely high intensity kick. I don't really count so much the yards quite as much early on, just because of the resistance. And I don't know if you go 1650s with a parachute kick, is it really 1650s or is it more like 32? I don't really know the answer to that. So for me, I do follow a lot of how much power work we do, how much fast kicking, even easy kicking we do. But a lot of the slower swimming, a lot of the warm down, a lot of the early on, if we're coming off a period of time of being off, I don't really count that anymore. When I was younger, I did. I thought it was important that, we're going to go a 400 loosen and then 600 of drill work and sculls, and then we're going to hit 400 of some one arm pulling work. Like, I want to get to 2 grand. And now it's more, if I'll stop warm up, all right, we're ready to go, we're going now. Like, if, a lot of times I'll write like a prep set that'll get going, and we'll slowly etch them up each round. Like, right, we'll slowly push the button further. We'll push it further. We'll push it more. And there's a lot of times now where I'm like, hey, it says 3 rounds, but y'all are going fast now at 2 rounds. We're done. Let's move on. Let's do the main set. Let's crank it. And I think that's where I didn't do that when I was younger. I felt like if I wrote it, I had to do it.
Like, you want to fill the hours of the practice and all sorts of different things that you want to kind of cover. Like, I guess there's so many different directions to go with the question here. Give me a second to kind of gather my thoughts, because I wanted to go a bunch of different directions with it. And now I'm kind of drawing a blank. I'm sorry, Braden.
Taper time.
I guess the one thing that I was being in the time right now in taper, I think that's valuable information. And this is one of the questions that was getting caught in my head while you were talking. How much power and kicking do you do up to taper? I mean, how much are you still, what kind of kicking? Because it's probably not as much of that intense stuff, but probably spurts of it. I don't want to guess. You tell me what kind of kicking.
No, we kick a lot here. Every group, we kick a lot, and we kick hard, and we do it all fall. And then once we get into training, winter training mode, it's usually we kind of have a week, and then they're gone for a week, and then they're back for a week where they're not in classes. And obviously the workload automatically increases just because of not having classes. Usually the week right after training camp, we're really fast because we're back in school and everything's lowered. But I love kicking really heavy, really fast, a lot of resistance all fall, to where I basically tell them in the spring, it's almost a period of time where we're just fine tuning your legs and they're recovering, but it takes literally all spring. And, and I think that's where, the fine line of how much kick, usually our form of kicking now is is either really easy or it's a really short burst and it's fast. It's not a whole lot resisted. And if it is, it's at, nothing like a 50 or anything. It's really short. So, and a lot of rest. So I do feel, obviously by the time your legs come around, sometimes it takes a lot longer than you think, and I think that's why I like to do it. I kind of tell the team, like, we're going to get all the leg focus work that we need to do in the fall. And then in the spring, we're going to pick and choose, based on who you are, especially if you're a big kicker and you're going to need a lot more rest. But, I would say, same thing with the power. I mean, we don't start off with oodles of power to start a season. Most of the power that I will do it'll be like maybe lower weight, but it'll be more repeats and it'll be longer distances. But I do think you can't wait forever before you develop it. Cause then I think it's too late. But we'll start with the longer repeats and it may not be that much weight. And then we'll start building in the weight. We'll go from 100 details on power work to more of, okay, you need to make sure you're hitting 50 details, 50 stroke rate, not breathing. Whereas the 100, early on, we're developing more of a sustained power. Is like, I like to that's the word I use with the kids, is relating it to a 100 race, where I may say you never really hit max speed in 100 because you're not really blasting the first 25. No one, if you actually did that in 100, you would barely make a 75. But, I always kind of tell them, you never really hitting the highest max speed, but you're never hitting the valley of death, right, in a race or whatever that has happened before with kids. But so a lot of the power work we do early in the fall is built around that. So it, I like doing that. And so later in the season, that's been established. And so now it's more about front end speed. And I'm the type of coach that I like to kind of work from backwards to front. Like, I'm a guy who, a lot of our guys that do the 200 free, or some of our ladies like do the 200 breast or 200 back or whatever. I want you to be able to back half it, and that's what we're going to do in the fall. And then we'll eventually work towards the middle 100, and then we'll eventually work towards the first 50. Because I tell the kids all the time, if you're going to hit this time, if you can't go out faster than this, then you'll never get there. I don't care how good you are back halving. So I think just that philosophy, I think, is, a lot of things that I focus on.
Just as a sprint coach, a question that pops up right there is, have you ever got to mid-season and realized, oh man, I was so focused on speed endurance. I don't know if that's how you categorize it. Back end, speed endurance, and then been like, sorry, 50 guys and girls. I kind of been focused so much on that our 50s will be better at the end of the year. But right now, they might not be as snappy because you've been doing some of that. Because it's a different beast. The 100 is such a different beast. Like you said, you're not getting to the fastest fast, but you're not slowing down as much as you are in a 50 when you're getting to that fastest fast.
Right. Yeah, I prep them. I tell them, like, the 50 is the last of my concern the entire first semester. And the ones that are like naturally really good at it are still pretty good at it anyway. But, a lot of the freshmen, trying to teach them, like, hey, I'm not really worried about that right now. I mean, we'll have like some 50 detailed type sets in there, but it won't be the main focus. But, I mean, sometimes it is hard for them to think about it. And I always kind of tell them, in a college setting, when do you get a fresh 100 free? You don't. Like, you're never going to do a fresh 100 free. So we need to prepare for that, and I think that's something that once they kind of get the idea of like, oh, you know what, you're right. It may be my only event on the last day at NCAs, but it's the last day, so for sure. Yeah. It's always a challenge where they want to focus on maybe some of that pure speed earlier, but you just trick them sometimes anyway. You give them like that little set that's right after warm up or whatever.
And if you're open about tricking them, I say that's not manipulation, but whatever.
No.
We can get into that nitty-gritty. Can you give me an example of a stroke count aerobic set that you do with your sprint group? Like, how do you make that a priority, and how do you keep them? Because that's my biggest thing, is trying to keep sprinters engaged in aerobic work, and stroke work has been a huge thing, but I can't count 16 people's strokes at once. So making sure that they're staying engaged in a stroke count type set, or I guess maybe you're even taking that into speed sets. Can you give me an example of a stroke count set that you use?
Yeah, we did a set that I liked. It was maybe a month ago, where we did 100 free on 140. And I believe most of them, I said, you can't take more than 8 strokes a lap. You go 4 kicks off the wall, 8 strokes a lap, and you can only take, I think I gave them 6 breaths. And then the next 100 on 140, you could go up to 10 strokes, but the goal time, most of them, some of the guys were right around 50. So 50 seconds, 4 kicks, 10 strokes. And then the third 100 was kick with a board, where and we did, so that was 3 100s, and I can't remember if we did 8 rounds. I think we did 8 rounds. But as we go, I had to kind of start giving them a little bit more oxygen on the first one. But on the kick, basically the first one was 75 aerobic kick, 25 build. Then the next one was, 50 aerobic, 25 build, 25 hold. So you're basically trying to just send 100 kicks. And then at the end, they're basically going 100 max kick. Because the goal is to get faster on every single kick. And after 8 rounds, it gets kind of hard to do when you're already kind of going fast. But on the first 100, the first 100 is what they hate the most, because they're coming off a fast kick. And now you're telling me to go 4 kicks, 8 strokes, and I can only breathe 6 times. They said the second 100 was the easiest. Like, okay, I can go 50 point, 10 strokes, I can breathe. And their heart rate is at a really high level for 24 100s. But it's something that they can manage. The interval's not tight. We would go like 140, 142 minutes, or 140. I think maybe we kept it all on 140. And I even maybe had to adjust some of them, where I had to kind of go up. Because they started kicking too fast. They started kicking really fast, and just so I think something like that, they can look at it and be like, okay, I'm not going 24 100s on 110. I mean, if we go short interval rest, I'm usually putting them with fins and paddles, and it is like cruising. Okay, we're going to cruise 10 100s on 110. Can you go a minute, and can you go with fins and paddles and take this many kicks and strokes? But how easy can you do it? That's my envision of a short interval for a sprinter. But the other stuff that's the kind of stuff I like to do.
When do you write your workouts, or do you write your workouts beforehand?
I do. I put them in a Google Doc, but so my staff can see them. We all use Google Docs, so I can see what everyone's doing. I want to know what this group's doing, and what are the distance guys doing. Like, I want to know what they're doing, so I can ask. I want to know what's going on. And my staff, they want to know what I'm doing today. And we also cross over a good bit on certain speed days. We do something called a coach's switch. I started this my first year here over winter training. Well, a coach will take a different group. So it's not like the kids mingling. It's the coach will completely switch. So I want to know what you've done and what is your goal. Like, Mark will tell me, okay, here are the distance guys. Here's what I'd like you to do. This is the type of workout that they need. I can kind of look and see what they've kind of done. Okay, we're going to hit this. Usually he's fun because he's like, just treat them like sprinters. And I want them to go fast. So they love it, right? But and usually the sprinters go to Mark, and it's pretty aerobic, and they don't like it, right? Because it really challenges them. But I think I do write workouts, but I just the groups know, like, I'm not afraid to just done. We're not doing this, or I'm not afraid to. Okay, hey, instead of this, we're going to do this. I like doing it like that so I can keep notes. So I have a history of notes on kids. And I know what to expect each year. Like, Catherine Burkhoff usually hits a wall at the same time every year, and learning how to not get to that point at a certain, if I want it to be later, or if I want it to be earlier, or, you have that information, you have these notes, or if you put something down where, like, and I like to think that I have a fairly creative mind, but I also believe in it. Brian Barnes, one of my coaches, says it all the time. If it's worth doing it once a week, you should definitely do it twice. Right. I mean, and I'm a big believer in progression through a season, but I want to make it creative. Like, I'm not the type of coach that does the same warm up every day. I cannot do that. So going in there and understanding, okay, we did, I want to know what Catherine did on these 850s fast. I did this somewhere around last year. She seems around the same. She's not as tired maybe this year. Let's see where she was compared to last year. I think the more I have that down, the more I get to keep it and I get to explore. But plus, I honestly think this day and age, it's so much easier for someone to see what they're doing, especially if I'm riding like 4 kicks, 4 strokes, 4 right arm strokes, go into water, kick to the wall, 3. If I say that, like, okay, I know what you're doing, and the next thing you know, they're gonna mess it up, right? So I think I have to, sometimes I don't write it and I write it on a whiteboard, but I find that it's easier to educate and easier to create dialogue for each athlete when they can see it, because they kind of know what I'm thinking. And then I'll walk them through it like, okay, this is what I mean by 6 big strokes in the 8 powerful strokes in the 10 max strokes. Like, I want it to be this format, or whatever. And so, and I think they, I don't know, that's just, I write them down.
Yeah. Do you do it like the night before, the day before? Do you do a week at a time when you write them?
Usually what I'll do on a Sunday is I'll format my thoughts that I'm thinking of for the week. And I'll say, okay, I know I want to hit this here. I want to hit this here. And then throughout the week, I try and be maybe a day ahead, knowing that I don't want to write a week. I can't write because, I have to adjust. I'm going to have to adjust. Like, a lot of times, like, oh my God, their legs are cashed. There's no way I can do this set tomorrow, or I'm going to be wasting my time. I need to switch gears. So I'll usually write it a day before, or if I have a pocket, like today I had a pocket. I went and watched my daughter swim at high school states. I got back here. I had a few minutes before this. I kind of went ahead and mapped out a little bit more of Friday into Saturday because we have so much going on, knowing that I need a working blueprint because I know I'm going to end up switching a bunch of things for different kids.
Yeah.
Plus, for me, it helps.
I agree. I think it kind of helps engage in what you're doing. If I wrote it a week ago, I'm not as excited about it. If I wrote it, the day before, and I think the kids can sense that, or at least I feel like my energy is better when I'm presenting it that way. So I was just curious how that process worked for you. And that's helpful. Just to clarify one piece, when you write notes, you write them on the workout and share that in the Google Docs. So that's where it's always with the athletes.
I'll have like a workout with me and I'm like constantly writing down things with a pen, and I'll go back in that night and I'll put, okay, maybe I recorded their 850s or whatever, and I'll record it and then I'll put all my notes. I'll put notes within the workout. Like, I know I went, and sometimes I'll go back and reference. I remember, because I try, if I do the same thing every single year, it's just not going to work, right? We have to evolve. Strength conditioning changes. It's next thing you know, we're a little bit more leg driven or a little bit leg heavy. Sickness comes into play, or we have kids that go to world champs and I don't see them for 2 weeks, and it's like they're coming back from a time zone and that whole week has it. So I think for me, it's like I want to look at this season as the only season, but it definitely helps going back and saying, I remember doing something like this before around this time. What did I do? Oh, I did my notes say this was the dumbest set ever. Don't do it. This cashed them for a prep set. I'm like, so now, okay, I can't, and I think it helps me because, I know there's a lot of coaches that are so good and it's all upstairs. And I think I could work like that. I just don't know if I would want to work like that, just because I like seeing history. I like seeing, like, I like when our kids know how fast they've been, a 50 all out kick, 100 all out kick, a certain broken swim, and every year I'll do something that I like, and I'll keep going back to it. And then the kids will kind of be like, so have you done this before or whatever? And I'm like, no, I like it. And I'm seeing the difference. And I think when you have the history, you kind of have all that.
This one's a little less technical, but I think just as important. When I met you, it was very obvious that you were a fun coach, and as an assistant coach, that's easy to do, and as a young coach, that's easier to do. Are you still a fun coach?
I have no idea.
That's the right answer, but give
I
me one that's the true answer.
I I think yeah, I think I like to still have fun. I will dance an insane amount during practice. I like making the kids laugh. I would say our program is a very sarcastic program, where the kids are really sarcastic with me, and I'm sarcastic back. Um, I like when they smile, and I like when they smile when it's hard. Smiling on the easy days is the easy part. Like, I'll be honest, I'm also the type of guy that if I know I'm going to go a pretty chill workout, I'll be pretty chill on deck so they don't get overloaded. I just, I know that there's days where I'm going to be really intense and I'm looking for fast, and there's days where they flat out mess up and they're not focusing, and I'll get on them pretty hard. But I would tend, I think for me, my patience level has been the biggest thing I've learned. That, when you first met me when I was at Virginia Tech, there's no way my patience level was what it is today. Because I didn't see it. I didn't know. I didn't know, right? I was new. We were getting better, and I I wanted something to be done right. I wanted to be done this way, and I would get mad if we couldn't do it. And now that I've done it for a while, I'm like, man, stuff's gonna happen. Like, stuff is gonna happen. Kids are gonna get sick. Kids are gonna get injured. Kids are gonna have someone pass away in their family, and they're gonna miss for a funeral, or their dog's gonna. I mean, it's just always a test. I got a huge test, and I'm not. I mean, I think my patience. I mean, it helps. I have 4 kids. My wife and I have 4 kids, and my oldest is 16, and I must have a high level of patience with her. And my youngest is 7, and obviously he's like a Tasmanian devil. If I don't have patience with him, I'm going to go nuts, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that I would say, that if alumni came back to NC State, they would say, "Man, you're so chill and soft." I'm I don't know. I don't. Some days I'm not. I'm sure, but I think I'm still fun.
It seems to be working, coach. So I wouldn't stress about it. Don't worry about what they said, because unfortunately your teams are faster than theirs. So I'm just saying, though, I don't want, I'm not encouraging the soft mentality, but I too feel like having a family gave me patience on a different level, and a different kind of respect for being able to work with an athlete, and perspective on, where that athlete is coming from after, having to deal with those patients at home, like you're saying.
Right.
What is something that you do, and it's something that maybe you had to learn over time, but something that you do this season to make balance a priority? Obviously, you got to your daughter's swim meet. Can you get to all of them, or what do you
No,
do to make sure you're balancing?
I think the first thing I do is I make sure the team understands that there is another team that's ahead of them, and that's my own team. And I think our team, my college team, understands that, and they embrace it. I think they like that I take that approach, because it's life, right? I mean, my wife tells me all the time, when I have a bad day or something, or we lose a meet or something like that, and she's like, "Braden, you're a swim coach. Like, if you stop coaching, the world is going to continue to turn. Sorry, but it's going to keep turning." And so I think when she keeps me grounded, I can take. I'm not afraid to fail anymore. Like, I'm not I don't, and I think having that allows me to communicate more with my team of, like, my priority in life is my wife. My other priorities are my kids. Like, tonight, I will finish a workout, and I will tell the team before, as soon as this last thing's done, I'm going, because my son's championship basketball game is tonight, and I'm not going to miss it. And what makes it awesome is the team helps me. They help me. They ask, like, did he win his game? How did he play? My staff helps me. Like Mark this morning, our pro group was in this morning doing some good long course work, and we were about to put the lane line rooms back, and I had a wrench in my hand, and Mark's like, "Go to the meet, go get good seats, bye." And Mark Bernardino helps me do that. So I think for me, I've gotten, now that there's so many opportunities to be there for my kids that I know I can make, because I know on the other side of it, there's times where I can't make it. So I think I know when I can do it, I need to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I want to, right? Obviously. So it's a good groove that we're in right now. And my wife really, really helps me do it. She has patience with me too, with, times where, like, I mean, when I go out of town, I mean, usually ACC is a split. This year it's not. I'm gone for 2 weeks, and that, 4 kids, and now luckily my oldest is driving now, which is a little bit more nerve wracking.
Yeah.
Now that she's driving, but it's tough on my wife.
Yeah, those are hard weeks away here and from back home, and knowing that it's kind of a hectic time for them. They don't really have a lot of time to talk to you about the meet because obviously they're balancing all those priorities. It's tough. But you, on top of the college and your first team, which is the family, you also have added another ball in the air that you're juggling, and that's those pros that you just alluded to. I mean, I just want to ask this kind of honestly, but maybe I'm wrong. How hard is dealing with pros and working with pros on top of all the other things that you have on your plate?
We've been fortunate. It's been really, really positive, and we have a mix of some alumni. We have a mix that went through the collegiate system, so they understand. We have some that are from Europe that don't understand the college system, and I think it's kind of fun that they see it. But I think for us, we have been spoiled. We've worked with great, great individuals that understand there is a balance for us as a staff to, give to the college team, set up our times for the pros. When are we traveling with the pros? When are we not? When do I need to just take a morning off and sleep? Because normally there is no morning off for me. And so, or, a lot of our staff. So I think if you create that same concept as college, if you just create a great environment of giving and understanding, it's been great. I think the ISL helps because most of them at some point they're gone. So I think the amount of stress on us is not as big at times because a lot of times they're not there because they're in ISL, but and they're allowed to, and you get to help them make money and do what they love to do and not feel like they have to have like all these other jobs.
This is one question with two answers. What do college kids need that as athletes? What do college athletes need that pro athletes don't need as much of or any? And what do pro athletes need that college athletes don't need?
First thing that comes to my mind is college kids need structure. They need structure, and our pros have mastered that at this point. And they have, a lot of them are, doing a job on the side, or they're, married or engaged and married, or, I think our pros understand structure and they understand format. And I think our college team constantly needs that. I think the biggest reason is because of, they're going to school at the same time. Right. So, and I would say things that pros need, that college kids have, is that sense of family, that sense of environment that's bigger. It's just, a lot of times when our pros, and there'll be times where our pro group will be smaller, it'll be bigger, it'll like fluctuate, but based on when meets are occurring for each person. And so sometimes it gets hard when there's only 2 of them and they're training for this meet while the other 3 are tapering. And then, then at one point we had 12 and they all had different meets. And so you're providing so much different that they're all on a different page. At least with the college team, we have conference. Okay. We have NCAs. And so I think that environment, that team environment really does help anybody, I think. And it'd be like if you're just working from home every single day, like that would drive me nuts. I need to have a conversation with somebody, and so I think that's kind of the first thing that kind of comes to my mind.
Last topic, coaches. You've worked under great coaches. You talked about Ned, you talked about Dr. Freeze. You've mentored in one way or another some really great coaches. What do you see as the 1 to 3 factors that make a good coach? I mean, it could be 1 and that'd be great, but if it's 2 or 3, that's great too. What makes a good coach? Because you've seen them. You are one, but you've seen a lot of them and been around them. What are the factors?
Are you saying what are the factors to be what I would say consider to be a great coach, or
What
what are
is
the
the common
factors
factor that all these coaches that you've worked with, that you've seen, that you have, that you would look for if you're hiring a new assistant or something like that? What's the differentiating factor? I'm trying to ask it in a simple way, but make it as complicated and
That's a tough question. Because I think about some of the greatest coaches that I would want to share a pool deck with, and some of them are so different than some of the great coaches that are coming up now, and I would say probably the first thing is just a true interest in the sport. I think sometimes there might be coaches out there that just do it because this is what they've always done, or they swam, and I don't know if is that a true interest for them. I think that sometimes ends up creating a path of greatness because you're willing to go the extra mile for these 3 kids or this young person who won't make your conference team, right? Are you going to go the extra mile to create something that you feel like they need? And I think that's just true interest in the sport. I don't know if I want to say true caring, because I do feel that that's just a general term for everybody in life, right? To just be a good person and care about others that you're responsible for helping or you're around. But I would say being truly interested in the sport. And I would say, some of my staff that's gone on to do great things is knowing how to work with a group, knowing how to, as a group of coaches, knowing how to, I always kind of joke around with our staff. Like, I want productive arguments. Like, if we don't argue, I don't want someone to look at me and be like, oh, that sounds good. That sounds good. That sounds good. But like, does it? Like, give me what you're saying. Don't be afraid to tell me that this is ridiculous, and I feel like I've been able to have staffs with me that we can have constructive arguments that lead to the best end result. And I think that's really, really important. Honesty, basically. Just, you got to be honest.
That's a great answer. Cool.
Yeah.
Braden, I really appreciate your time. I mean, just me and Julie, I learned a lot from these 45 minutes. I know hopefully a lot of the listeners will connect as well. You being available and so open and sharing with your ideas, which you have been from the moment I met you, I think it's great. It's reflective of you as a person, you as a coach, and the success that you're having. So
thank you for those kind words.
Absolutely. Well-deserved, and I appreciate your time. Hopefully we can do it again soon. Best of luck next week at conference, and
thanks.
Looking forward to NC2As.
And good luck to you guys as well. Welcome to the college ranks.
You've been listening to the SwimSwam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take SwimSwam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.